Hello, beautiful people. Aloha and welcome to another episode of Touchful Podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here, and thank you for choosing to spend a moment of your life with me. In case you are here for the first time, my name is Magdalena. I am a practitioner and teacher of Hawaiian healing called Lomi Lomi, and my practice inspires me to live something that I call a touchful life in connection with myself, with others, and with the whole world. And in this podcast, I share my insights, my discoveries, everything that I am learning on my way to embodying more and more of this concept, touchful life full of love and care and compassion for myself, others, and the whole world. And in today's episode, I want to share with you a story that I shared on my birthday last week. And that story turned out to be quite inspirational for my guests, people whom I invited to my birthday party. And we had beautiful discussions and insights around that. So I thought that I would love to share that in the podcast episode as well. So you maybe will get some insights and inspirations for your life. And I will use that story as an example to talk about a superpower that I think we as humans have. So last week it was my birthday. Not my personal birthday, not like a birthday of me, Magdalena, but something that I call a Lomi Lomi birthday. So I was celebrating 7 years of my Lomi practice. It was 7 years ago when I touched somebody for the first time in something that I call the Lomi way. When I went for my first Lomi Lomi training, when I did my first Lomi, and I so much wanted to celebrate that with my friends, with some of my students, with some of my clients. So I invited a bunch of people to the celebration. And I started by sharing a story with them, a story that I also want to share with you. And it was one day when I was meditating and I got this idea of like, wow, maybe it would be nice to celebrate such a milestone, like 7 years of my Lomi practice, to celebrate it, to throw a party, to invite people. This thought came to me in a meditation, and when I was sitting with myself, or something that I call sitting with my human. And I got a little bit excited, but then I pushed that thought away. But then the next day in a meditation, it came again. And I started to imagine how nice would it be to surround myself with people who made these 7 years of my life, last 7 years of my life and 7 years of my Lomi practice so special. And then I got even more excited, but I pushed that thought away again. And it kept coming back, and I kept pushing it away. And then I asked myself, like, why am I pushing this thought away? Why a part of me doesn't want that party? Why a part of me thinks that it's not a good idea? And I sat with myself in complete truth and being so transparent and honest with myself, like I always do. It's one of my favorite practices, by the way, to be really naked in truth with myself, because I really believe that we can fool everybody around us, but we can really never fool ourselves, and deeply we know when we are not truthful to ourselves. So I sat with myself in truth and I asked myself, what's the story there? Why I keep pushing that thought away? And then I realized that there was some fear in me, some old fear, some old story. What if nobody comes? What if nobody shows up? What if I invite people and they will not come. And I realized that it was a voice repeating my old story. A story, a program, a filter, something that I believed in for many, many years in my life. And that belief was that, in fact, I am always alone. That, in fact, deeply, truly, nobody really wants me, nobody really likes me. And that was the story, that was a belief that was like a core belief in my life for many years. And everything in my life was influenced by that belief. Because when you believe in something and you deeply, truly believe that it is true, then you start to see evidence for that being true everywhere around you. So when I had that belief in me for all these years of my life, that in fact nobody really likes me, and in fact I'm alone, always alone, and I'm gonna always be alone, then I would find evidence for that everywhere around me. Every breakup would be an evidence that in fact nobody likes me, and in fact nobody loves me, and in fact I am alone and nobody wants me. Every time when I would have a difficult moment with a friend, that would be an evidence for me that yes, in fact, I am unlovable and nobody wants me and nobody likes me. So the belief that I had was like a filter, and only the things that were matching that belief could go through my system. You know what I mean? Try to imagine it like this, that the beliefs that you have, and in most cases you are not even aware of them. I was absolutely unaware of that belief for most of my life. So the beliefs that you have, they filter out your reality. You don't see the world as it is. You see it through the lens of your beliefs. And you are literally unable to see something that goes against your belief, because your system, your mind, will be only looking for evidence to confirm that belief. And we have many of them, and that belief of mine was just one of many beliefs guiding my life. And the breakthrough in my life happened when I realized that I had that belief. That deep in my core, in fact, I believed that I was unlikable, and that nobody would like me, and that I would always be alone. And I remember the moment when I saw that belief for the first time. And I saw it for what it was, that it was a story, it was a program, it was a filter that I would be telling myself for all these years and collecting evidence for this to be true for all these years until I believed it to be true. But it was not true. It was just a story. And I remember, like I said, I remember that feeling when I got it. When I got it, that, oh my God, it is just a story. It is not true. It is not any more true than any other story that I can tell myself. And when I realized that, then I felt like somebody gave me my power back. I felt like I got a superpower, because I realized that if it was just a story, and in fact all our beliefs are just stories that we tell ourselves, and then we collect evidence for these stories to be true, then it means that I can start telling myself a different story. And this is what I started to do very deliberately and relentlessly. So after recognizing that I had this belief that nobody wants me, nobody likes me, I would always be alone, I saw it for what it was, that it was just a story, and I started to tell myself a different story. And the story was that, in fact, everybody likes me and everybody wants me, and most importantly, that I like myself and I want myself. And I will never be alone because I always will have myself. And because I like myself and I want myself, and then also I'm surrounded with people who like me, I'm surrounded with people who love me, and I never ever will be alone. And I started to tell myself this kind of story. And at first, of course, it felt awkward because I was going against years and years of conditioning, years and years of collecting the evidence for a completely different story. So what I started to, and what I had to start to do, was I had to be very radical, almost very deliberate and relentless in reminding myself that right now I am choosing to believe in a different story, and I am choosing to collect evidence for a different story. And I choose to see my world through a different lens, through a different filter. So all kinds of things that would happen in my life, I would choose to see them as the evidence that in fact I am liked, I am loved, I like myself, I love myself, other people like me, other people want me, I will never be alone, I want myself, and so on and so forth. And here comes the reason, one of the reasons of me deciding to actually have that party, to have that 7-year celebration Lomi Lomi party. Because when I sat with myself in truth and I realized that one of the reasons why I'm not so eager on throwing that party was that old fear of mine that, oh my goodness, what if nobody comes? Then I decided that in fact it is a perfect opportunity to use that to collect evidence for the exactly opposite thing. That yes, people will come because I am surrounded by people who love me, who care about me, who admire me, who want to be in my company. I want to be in my own company. I admire myself for many things that I did in life. So I decided to have that party, and I started it by sharing that story with my guests, with my Lomi friends, with other practitioners. Some of them I trained, with some of my clients, with friends who came to that party. And I used all these people as my proof. I used them as my evidence. I told them at the beginning of that party, thank you for being here because you are my evidence. You are my proof that I am surrounded by amazing people, and that people love me and they want me, and that I am lovable, likable, and that I like myself and I want to be in my own company and other people want to be in my own company. Because I chose to use a different filter. And the fact is that some of the people that I invited to that party, they didn't come. So I could use that. If I was living in my old story, I could use that as a proof that, oh my God, in fact, I am not wanted because so many people that I invited, they didn't come. But it is my choice, it is my responsibility to write my own story. It is my choice and my responsibility to choose what I want to believe in. So instead of thinking about the people who didn't come and using them as a proof for a story that I no longer want to invest in, I chose all the people who came with their open hearts, with their best wishes, and I chose them as a proof of a story that I want to tell myself, that I am wanted, I am needed, that I have amazing life, that I have the best relationships in my life, that I am surrounded by great people, and that I am a great person myself. Because here is the truth about this world. There is everything in this world. Everything. Everything, everything, everything. And you can find evidence for everything. If you believe that this world is a dangerous place, that you are unsafe, that you need to protect yourself all the time, that people are mean, they are vicious, and they want to use you and abuse you, you will find evidence for that everywhere, all the time, because that is true, that this world is a dangerous place, and there are people here who want to use you and abuse you, and you need to protect yourself all the time. If you choose to see the world as a place that is welcoming for you, that is safe, that is good to live in this world, and that you are surrounded by people who support you, who want your best, then you will find the evidence for that everywhere around you. Because it is true that the world is a good, safe place, that the world is happy that you are living in it, and that you are surrounded by amazing people who want all the best for you. This is true, and this is true. Both are true if you choose to believe in them. I remember that when I started to learn Lomi and I started to study Hawaiian healing in general and Hawaiian wisdom, Hawaiian philosophy, Hawaiian culture, one of the things that I would study at the beginning of my path was something called Huna. So Huna is a kind of like a modern approach to ancient Hawaiian wisdom teachings. And according to Huna, there are 7 principles that guide our life. And if you live your life by these 7 principles, I would say that you would live a happy life. And a very first principle of Huna, the number 1 that you need to embody, it's the principle called Ika in Hawaiian. And the meaning of that principle is that the world is what you think it is. The world is what you think it is. And you might have heard that even if you are not in any way connected to Hawaiian teachings, because I have a feeling that this is a teaching that is quite widespread through various traditions, and in various spiritual teachings you can find that principle. The world is what you think it is. You are who you think you are. Your life is what you think it is. And I remember that when I heard that for the first time, I was like, I thought to myself, like, yeah, like, this is true. I understand it. Like, I understand it. I understand what it means. But only recently, a couple of years ago, I could feel that I started to really embody it, to really practice it, to really use it for my benefit, to really use it as my power. Because these 7 principles of Huna, they are also, one of their purposes is to empower you, to give you your power back, to remind you that you are a powerful being, a limitless being. So at first I would just understand it mentally, that the world is what you think it is, especially that I come from a psychological background. I was a psychologist, so I would, study cognitive psychology, and of course I would understand the power of our thoughts and beliefs and how they shape our reality. It all made sense to me on a mental level. But only recently I started to really live it, and I started to use it as my superpower. And this is also one of the purposes of this episode, to show you that this is your superpower, that if this world is everything, and it can be everything, then you can choose how you want to see it. You can choose what you want to believe in, and then the world will change accordingly to your beliefs. One of my most beautiful and also sort of quite intimate examples is something that I sometimes share with my students or with my clients, or maybe I even shared it on a podcast, I don't remember, is the relationship with my dad. So we had quite a bumpy relationship for all the past years, and our relationship right now is the most amazing relationship on earth. I love my father with all my heart. I think he's an amazing person, and we have a really good vibe together. I respect him, I love talking to him, I love hugging him. And believe me, it was not like that. For all these years of my life, it was really not like that. But it started to change when I started to change, when I didn't want to change my dad anymore, but instead I started to change myself, and then the way I see the world changed, and the way I see my dad changed. And because I changed the way I saw him, I changed the story in my head that I was telling myself about him, then he changed. There is this famous quote by Wayne Dyer that when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. And I want you to see this as your superpower. You are a superhuman with a superpower. You don't need to wait for the world to change. You don't need to wait for the people to change. You don't need to wait for anything on the outside to change. Just change the way you look at it, and it will change. Change your perspective, and everything that you look at will change. Or, like the first principle of Huna says, the world is what you think it is. Another metaphor that also says about, it's an example for all what I'm sharing, is the metaphor of a mirror. That again, in many spiritual traditions, in many spiritual teachings and teachings about energetics, you might find this metaphor of a mirror, that the world is a mirror. It is a reflection of you. So if you want to change the world, you start by changing you, and then the world changes. Exactly like with a reflection in a mirror. If you look at yourself in a mirror and you don't like what you see, like you don't like your hairstyle, you don't try to reach to the mirror and change something in a mirror, but you naturally reach to yourself, to your own hair, and then you redo your hair until what you see in the mirror satisfies you. And I love this metaphor because I believe that this is exactly how the world operates. Change yourself and you will change the world. The world is what you think it is. So be careful what you think about the world. Be careful what you think about yourself, or even not careful, be aware of it. That's why I am such a huge advocate of sitting with yourself, sitting with your human, getting to know yourself truly, deeply, and to the core. Because your life, my life, lives of all of us are like operating through different beliefs. It's like when you have a computer and you have all kinds of programs. I see it as a metaphor of life, that there are different programs that run my life, different beliefs that run my life. And when I believe something to be true, it will manifest in my life. I will find evidence for it everywhere. If I believe that I have a difficult life and everything is against me, I will see the proof of it everywhere, all the time, every day. When I believe that I have a good life and that I am blessed, or something that I love to say about myself, that I am universe's favorite child, then I will find the proof and the evidence for it everywhere around me, in the smallest things. And sometimes exactly the same thing can be a proof for this or can be a proof for that. Because the world is not what it is. The world is what you think it is. So, beloved one, what do you think about the world? What do you think to be true? What do you believe about yourself? Because anything that you believe in, it is just a story. And what I believe now about myself, that I am wanted, that I am needed, that I am loved, that I am a kind person, that I love myself, that I am surrounded by great people, this is also just a story. But I'd rather tell myself this story than the story that I am not wanted, I am alone, nobody likes me, nobody understands me, nobody gets me, and all the horrible stuff. This is a story, and this is a story. And in a sense, both of them are equally true, and both of them are equally untrue. This is just a story. Everything that you believe in, these are just stories. So see it like the superpower that you have, that you are like a writer. You can write any story because you are the writer. You have a power to write your story, and you have a power to rewrite your story. Once you see it as a story, you can rewrite it. You can choose a different story. And this truly is a superpower. This is something that has completely, and I mean completely, 180 degrees changed my life. Completely. When I realized that this is all just a story, and I can choose a story. I can choose how I want to see the world. I can choose how I want to see myself, what I want to believe in about love, about money. Oh my God, that's like a whole different story. The money stories that we tell ourselves, and they run our lives. And yes, sometimes it takes quite a long time to rewrite a story, to install a different program. Because, like I said, a belief is just a thought that has been repeated so many times that you started to believe that it is true, and it started to run your life. So if you want a new belief, if you want a new story, you need to repeat it quite many times and start collecting evidence for that new story, and sort of like ignore all the evidence that proves the old story to be true. So once I started to rewrite my story, that I am not wanted and not needed, and in fact I am alone and nobody gets me and just people are mean, Once I identified this as a story and that I don't want this story anymore in my life, I don't want this program anymore in my life, then it is a little bit like when you install a new program in a computer. It usually takes some time before this program is installed and ready to be used. And it's a little bit like this with new stories that we tell ourselves. It takes time, and it takes like really radical dedication to start collecting the evidence of a new story and ignore the evidence for the old story. So in my case, I would start to collect bits and pieces of reality that would show me that in fact I have a good life. I have amazing relationships in my life, that I am surrounded by good people, and I would cherry pick, yes, I would cherry pick the evidence for this to be true, for this one meeting that I had with that person, for this one sweet message that I got from a client, from this good moment in meditation when I could really feel my heart and I could feel that I kind of like myself, even if it just was for a moment. Sometimes I would deliberately create evidence. I would stand in front of the mirror and I would look myself in the eyes and I would tell myself, "Hi, I like you. You're a good person." And that started to change my life. And that is just one little example of this one belief. Well, not a little belief, but kind of like the one that was really operating through all the layers of my life, and how I changed it. Now, I really don't feel it as true anymore, that I am unwanted and that I am unneeded and that I will be alone. That's why when, again, I'm gonna go back to this idea of the birthday party. That's why when I realized that, oh my God, in fact, the only reason why I don't want to organize that party is because I am afraid that nobody would come. But that's not true. That's impossible. That's impossible because there are so many people in my life who like me, who appreciate me. And even if nobody else comes, I will have myself. I will never be alone. I will celebrate myself with myself. And that's what I did. I chose to use that party as my evidence, as my proof. And instead of focusing on those people who didn't show up, I focused on so many who did show up. And together we made the world a little bit better and funnier and kind and loving place on that evening. And when I shared that story with my guests, we had a beautiful and deep discussion in a circle with people opening up about some of their stories and how the stories or their programs or filters or beliefs, how they manifest in their lives in all kinds of ways, and how they would choose a different story, how they would like to choose a different story, a different belief, or how they did change that belief in the past. Because remember, it is all just a story. So choose your story, write your own story, and be mindful, be aware, study yourself, look at your life, look around you, look at your life as a mirror, as a reflection of your stories that you carry inside you. And start collecting evidence for what you want to be your reality. Because whatever you collect evidence for, it will start to be your new belief. So once I started to collect evidence that I have the best life, that I am blessed beyond measure, I really started to see my life like this. That's why one of my favorite practices that I share with everybody, and I think that it's the fastest and the easiest way to change your life, is through the practice of gratitude. Something like a gratitude journal or other practices. I have a whole podcast episode about my favorite gratitude practices other than journaling. Because gratitude is about collecting evidence that you have a good life. And once you start to collect that evidence that you have a good life, you start to have a good life. You write that story that your life is good. I wonder if it makes sense to you, if you see some reflection or examples of what I shared with you, if you see some of that in your life. And if you would like to share that with me, you have my email address in the description of this episode. I would love to read your story, nomen. And I think I'm gonna stop here for now and leave you with hopefully, with some inspiration, with some insight. And thank you for you. Thank you for choosing to spend a moment of your life with me. That's an honor and a pleasure. And in a moments like this, when I say this, that thank you for you and thank you for choosing a moment to spend your life with me, I like to imagine you there somewhere. You have your life, you have your stories, and you are somewhere there listening to me right now. And I feel my heart, and I connect my heart to your heart in this very moment. Even if I'm recording this podcast in some particular moment in time and you listen to it in some other moment in time, it doesn't matter. This linear time, it doesn't matter. I really believe that my here and now can connect with your here and now, that my heart connects with your heart in this very moment when I record this and when you listen to this, that the time collapses and it just collapses into here and now. So in this very moment, I put my hand on my heart, I take a breath, and I connect to you because I can feel you. I know that you are there and that you listen to this. So thank you for you. You make a difference. And I hope to talk to you sometime soon. Aloha, and keep living a touchful life.